Okay, on this episode, we're going to talk about network optimization, backlog, things like that. What does this really mean? So first and foremost, here's what I'd like to tell you. If your approach to measuring or quantifying your backlog is simply taking a look at how many centerline lane of pavement you got out there, roadways is a pretty popular case right here. I got 100 centerline miles of roadway. And if you translate that into square yards and you're simply saying, well, I've got all this pavement out there. I know it's $15 a square yard to bring it all up to 100. That's my backlog. I want you to think a little bit differently because while that's true in theory, right? That's not the reality, is it? Because you would never go out and spend $15 a square yard on a pavement that's in good condition, that's in excellent condition. So here's what you have to start thinking about. Optimization. When you think of optimization, what does that truly mean? It's getting the best bang for your buck and getting the performance that you desire. Performance, another key word, key indicator. The best way to identify what type of performance we can achieve is, again, going back to one of my previous videos, success leaves clues, taking a look at how things are performing. How are we doing, right? Constantly grading yourself. And I get it. I connect with a lot of these public works directors, city engineers, out here in pavement management land, or project managers on the A&E side of all this stuff. And they're a little worried because we're talking about accountability here. If I start documenting my processes, if I start trying and taking a couple risks on some preventive maintenance or preservation activities, it's well, what if it doesn't work? What if it fails? The reality is, what if it does work? What if it does, provide a success story? And again, going back to that previous video, success leaves clues. Go network and find the case study and employ it and do it over and over again. Measure your results. That's how you're going to optimize your network. You can't optimize your roadway network, your funding, your taxpayer dollars, your general funds, your match funds. You can't optimize if you're doing worst to first. In other words, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't go out here and do worst to first. And on top of that, talk about how you're optimizing your road network just because you spent a few more dollars this year. That's not what we're talking about here, okay? So performance, how are we going to optimize and measure the backlog accurately? I believe it starts with the proper inventory and condition assessment. Go back to that pavement management 101 video I've done at some point. I don't know what that point is depending on when this airs or launches, but you have to understand if you've got a good solid inventory, you know what you've got, where it's at, and you know what condition it's in. You can start qualifying every roadway for the proper preventive or preservation or rehabilitation. As much as we love optimization and pavement management land, we're naive to think that we can forego doing mill and overlays. Everything has a place. Everything's got a place, but you have to employ it all for optimization. You can't simply sit back and spend another 20% of your budget towards bad roadways and expect an amazing result. It's just not going to happen, is it? So again, optimization, identifying the backlog appropriately. Take a look at condition categories. If you got a 0 to 100 scale, I challenge you, break that into, say, 5 condition categories at 20 PCI breakpoints, right? Take a look through networking with those around you that are already employing these types of preventive and preservation activities. Talk to the contractors. Believe it or not, yes, they want to make a sale. Of course, everyone wants to make a sale. But if you find the right contractor, they will lead from a position of value. And that value will help lead you to a better decision-making process, a data-driven decision process, right? And that's what's important. Ask the hard questions. Go look for the real results, okay? If you're interested in microsurfacing, for example, as part of your optimization plan, don't go look at a roadway that was microsurfaced last week. Go look at a roadway that was microsurfaced 5 years ago, 7 years ago. That's about the life expectancy, by the way, everybody. About 5 to 7 years in there. So if you're looking at a micro that was done 10, 12 years ago and it looks bad, of course it looks bad. That's because that individual abandoned the program. They abandoned the process. That road was not designed to have a wearing course to last 12 years. It was 5 to 7. Think of all this logically. If you can identify the breakpoints, maybe it's rejuvenation in the 90-100 scale, crack fill program in the 80 to 90s, microsurfacing, slurries, chip seals, and that's, say, 65, 75 to upwards of an 80 PCI. Maybe employ some cape seals, and that 60 PCI and up. And then, of course, your milling and overlay strategies at 50 and below. Take a look at that, measure the result, you'll find the opportunities, you'll find what your optimization strategy will truly look like. Until the next one.